Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. And inside of this zippered case is something rather unique, rather special, and a full custom from TJ Fischer out of Central Florida. Now, I've had the opportunity in the recent past, sometime in the past year, to review his Cobra model, which is what this is. But he decided to do something a little wilder and a little bit more different by doing what he calls the Batblade on this particular variation. And I got to tell you, it's wicked, it's wild, it's different, and man, what a box cutting monster this thing is going to be. So what you've got here is basically a soft double recurve with kind of a hawkbill tip. So you've got a bit of belly in here. Now you're not really going to be able to do any kind of rocking cuts with it because you've got that protruding tip, and then of course you have the flipper tab here, so you don't have a lot of movement that way. But it is going to be one hell of a wicked cutting device. Now, like all other TJ Fischer knives, you've got an amazing fast action, beautiful detent, nice and smooth on the close, nicely done full thick titanium frame. And I want to talk for a second about the flipper tab here. Let's see if I can get a close-up on it. It is a very, very small, very short flipper tab, and you would almost think that's going to be a little bit too small. I'm not going to get a good enough purchase on it, but the jimping he has put on here is so effective. It's so wonderful that you almost can't miss. And because of that very sharp detent that he's got on here, all you do is apply the slightest amount of pressure, and this thing just rips out. Just rips out. Now, the only thing I'm not crazy about on this particular knife, because it is a fresh build, and this will happen on a lot of custom-made titanium frame locks, it's got just the tiniest little bit of lock stick. Not enough where you feel like you've got to get in there and pry it over, but you feel like a little thunk as you go to unlock it. Like I said, that's not really uncommon for a full thickness titanium frame lock, custom made and freshly delivered. That's something that we've seen for years and years and years with pretty much any custom maker. And again, like I said, it's not really so much that it's even a bother. It's just something that you notice. And this particular knife, for those that don't know, this knife was actually up for auction on TJ's Instagram. Now, if you don't follow TJ on Instagram, I highly suggest that you do, because he does like to do offerings there from time to time, as well as auctions. And this particular auction ended at about $1,400, which I believe is only a little bit more than what he would typically charge for his Cobras. Now, another thing that makes this different and probably affects the price pretty greatly is the fact that this blade is made of talonite. And if you don't know what talonite is, it's basically a cobalt alloy, which means it's going to be completely impervious to rust and corrosion. the winner of this auction, the owner of this knife, who was kind enough to allow me to borrow it in between the time that TJ finished it and that he's going to be getting it. It made a pit stop here. That's something that the owner really will never have to worry about. Another great thing about Talonite is it holds an edge for a really good long time. Talonite is basically a type of stellite, and I've gone over stellite many, many times on my channel in the past decade or so. It's known as stellite 6B, and so typically when we talk about stellite, we're talking about stellite 6K, like Tom Mayo uses a lot, and a few other very prominent makers. As I understand it, it's not very easy to work with. I've never worked with stellite. I've never ground or finished any of the cobalt alloys. But as I understand it, it's not as easy to work with as, say, LMAX or CPM 154 or something like that. But it gives you some really, really great benefits. And the finishing work he did on this is pretty fantastic as well. Let's get that little bit of fuzz from the pouch off of there. Really nice, clean, even grinds, beautifully done. And another thing that I love that TJ does, and really all the Fischers have done, their plunges are just gorgeous, just beautiful. Now, before I start getting a whole ton of questions relating to this in the comments down below, I know a lot of people are going to ask, because this is the Fischer family, are we ever going to see the Frank Fischer battle ever again, or at least in the next 10 years? And the answer to that is yes. So for those that don't know, TJ is Todd Fischer Jr., he's Frank's brother. Their father, Todd Sr. in this case, is actually going to be taking over the making of the battle. So for those that have always wanted a battle in their life and figured, okay, it's either going to be a very long time or never that I'm going to get a chance to have a battle built, that's not true. Todd is going to be doing those. And you could see a lot of Todd's influence in his son's work. You can see the shape of the frame, the fact that he likes to keep everything compact but thick, and the beautiful finishing around the perimeters of the frame done in this satin finish. It gives a little bit of extra flash to an otherwise fairly subdued design. This is a pretty classic looking design when you get away from the Batblade shape. But as far as the frame and everything goes, and the standard Cobra, which is a modified sheep's foot, it's a very classic look. And this one's pretty understated because it's all done in black. And then another thing that I really love is that each of the speed holes that are in the frame, he has actually chamfered the inner edge of the holes there and done a little satin on that, so it's got a nice pop. They're not just boring holes, they're pretty cool holes. The accordion style relief cut on the lock bar gives a really good amount of tension without being too much, and also assists in the really great detent feel that you've got on this knife on deployment. Another thing that TJ does that his father has done for a while is this beautiful jeweling. And what I'm going to have to do here is probably grab... Do I have to grab a flashlight for you to see this? Let me see if I can just kind of zoom in and hope that you can see it. There you go. On the interior of the frame, it's all been wonderfully jeweled. And it's just an extra little detail, something that's obviously not required, it's not needed. But that extra bit of beautification shows the amount of work that TJ is putting into these knives. Another clear indication that you're getting into a high-end custom is this 10-point pivot. This is all custom made, and then you've got the mother of pearl detail in the center. TJ, much like his father, is one of those gifted knife makers that not only can make an exceptional knife from scratch and has perfected their edges and their action and their detents, but is also skilled in CNC. So he can design, run, operate his CNC, maintain his CNC. As a matter of fact, this was, I believe, the first knife off of the new CNC after he upgraded it. So here's somebody that not only is a talented and proficient knife maker, but also a talented machinist and can sit down with that CNC and program it to do all of the things that he needs it to do. And that's a whole separate set of skills right there, man. And I have a tremendous respect for that, because you're not limited at that point to anything. You're not limited to what just hand tools and a grinder will do for you. You're not limited with what your imagination can come up with. If he decided that that clip needed to be, I don't know, a lightning bolt pattern, he wouldn't have to sit there and outline and scribe in all the different grinds that he would have to do to achieve that and hope to attain symmetry. He can draw it up and he can program that CNC to make those precise cuts and then go back and clean everything up on the grinder afterwards. So he's kind of a double threat. He can do all the programming, he can do all the machining, and he could do all the knife making and beautiful finish work, which I still say is one of the most important features in knife making, is the ability to not only create a good product and not only be able to grind really, really good grinds, but to do appropriate finish work at the end so that each and every knife is special. Now, I'm going to break away from my typical formula for the reviews that I do. I'm not going to break this up with the TLDW, and not really going to do a spec section, mainly on that part because I simply forgot to sit down and measure the dimensions of the knife before I came out here. So I'm going to rely on my future self to edit in the specs after I'm done here. I'll measure everything and put everything up here for you. To give you a quick size comparison before I do that, however, I'll bring out something that we're a lot more familiar with, because listen, I mean, this is a one-off custom knife. I don't expect you to have been able to go out and handle a bunch of these and know that this is the right size for you. And you might be looking at that blade and go, that's just ridiculously over the top and silly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something equally as over the top and silly for a size comparison, because not everything we own needs to be practical or make a hell of a lot of sense. But a lot of people own a Chavez 229, so let's put it up against the Chavez 229, and you get the idea that it's almost pretty much the same size. The handle is almost identical in its size. The blade is just a touch shorter. The Chavez is a 3.5-inch blade, and this is just a tiny, tiny little bit shorter, and it has a lot of the same feeling when it comes to the height of the handle, how much of the hand it fills, as well as the thickness of the titanium. The Cobra is a little bit thicker than the Chavez, as we can see right here. And the action is, well, pretty much just as good. So there you have it. So when they're folded up, they're pretty much the same size. So if you already carry a Chavez 229, whether it be a custom or it be a production piece like this, you'll already know if this would fit within whatever parameters you have for being comfortable on an EDC carry. Man, that just feels so good. And the biggest difference, material-wise, between the two is the fact that this Talonite is going to be a superior performer over M390, and it will be the kind of blade that you don't ever have to worry about rust or corrosion. And that's going to be a big deal for a lot of people. Whether you carry the knife a lot and you're sweating all over it, or you just live in an area where maybe you've got salt in the air, you live close to the ocean, this is going to be a knife that you don't have to have any concerns about. The biggest thing I appreciate about the Fischer family is their attention to detail. That pivot still blows my mind. They've been doing this for a couple of years now, and this goes back into some of the collaborative pieces that TJ did along with his brother, and obviously on his solo projects here. The intense amount of work that goes into making a pivot like that is insane. And it really makes the knife extra special. Because listen, when you're spending around $1,000 or spending, in this case, over $1,000 for a custom made knife, you want something that's special. You want something that's unique. You want something that you don't see a lot of other makers doing. And of course, you want yours to be different from all the other ones that exact maker is offering out there to other customers. And all of the wild varieties of pivots that I've seen coming out of TJ's shop has blown my mind. All that work and all that attention to this tiny, small little area. And again, all the chamfered rims on all of the holes, and it, by the way, includes the pivot hole. Really cleans it up nicely. Nice clean satin going all the way around. The only thing design-wise I'm a little disappointed about is the fact that he was using standoffs here, which I'm going to assume he turned those standoffs himself. So those are probably proprietary. I'm very certain that he made those and didn't just buy a standoff kit. But the backspacer work that I've seen him do is so gorgeous and really adds so much to the look of the knife that I'm kind of disappointed it doesn't have a backspacer on there, that it's just got the standoffs. And the standoffs are nice. They're wonderfully ornate. As you can see, all the machining that's been done to create those. And then to sit down and take the time to friggin' polish them, man. Those are all polished all the way around. How cool is that? This is just one of those knives that you kind of just want to sit down and stare at. It feels really nice to play with the action and sit there and open and close it and feel the beautiful work that he's done. But it's one of those knives that you just kind of want to sit there and stare at. So I am absolutely jealous of the auction winner that laid out all that money and got this for himself. Man, the whole thing just feels good. You would think it would be incredibly heavy, but it's really not. It's pretty lightweight for what it is. Just about the same as the Chavez here. Really love flipping this thing open, feeling that action. When it first arrived, first thing I did was I pulled it out, and I'm like, all right, I gotta feel that detent. And I just sat there and smiled because it is such a perfectly tuned detent. Oops, just caught my finger there. Oh, I don't think I cut myself, but no. You could definitely feel the sharpness of that edge too. This has definitely got a really nice edge. And this is a blade shape that would have probably driven most people nuts trying to put that edge on, especially doing it where you don't burn off the tip, because like any other good knife maker, he's not sitting down with a consumer grade wicked edge or something like that. He's applying the edge on his grinder. So you've got the grinding belt spinning at whatever speed you got it going at, and to sit there with the patience that you need to go and keep a perfectly straight edge all the way from heel to tip, and to get that and get to that tip and not have generated enough heat to burn that tip off, that's pretty damn fantastical. Look at those very smooth, very clean grind lines. Beautifully done. Great finish work all the way around. Great execution on a unique design. And I don't know that I am completely in love with the Batblade itself. But like I said, we always want to find something unique and different, and that is going to be unique and different. I don't believe that I've ever seen anybody do a blade design like this. It may exist, but I don't think that I've ever seen it. And the recesses that he's put into the spine of the blade really go to accentuate the wicked shape of that edge. I would love to just sit down here and tear open packages and cut down cardboard with it, but it is not my knife. I do have to send it along to its new owner in the same condition that it arrived in, but it looks like it would be a lot of fun to cut with. Very, very effective cutting edge. So, I don't know. The way I look at it is, if you're looking for something kind of run-of-the-mill and generic, the Fischer family really isn't where you're going to go, because they put a lot of detail in everything that they do. And while Todd Sr. doesn't tend to get this wild and crazy with blade shapes and stuff, you will see some wild backspacers and glass breakers and things like that, and dual action automatics that rely on the clip for actuation, where you just sit there and you squeeze the clip and it flips open. The talent in that family is boundless. And TJ's a super great guy too. I've had a chance to hang out with him a little bit, and he's just a super friendly, really great guy. And his work ethic is insane. Think of how long it took to make this pivot, to do that mother of pearl inlay, to machine and then polish those standoffs, to basically completely finish the knife entirely. It is 100% done. Then to do the black coating, and then go back and go, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and buzz around the perimeter and satin finish that. I think I'm going to go back across all the holes here and chamfer the inside edges of those, and risk wrecking this entire knife by doing something stupid, by not paying attention. It takes a lot of balls. There's a time as a knife maker that you sit there and go, okay, the knife is done. It's perfect. I don't even want to breathe on this again, because I could do any number of things to fuck this knife up. And it could be something where maybe you've got like a high satin finish on this blade, and you didn't realize there was a little bit of dust in the air that settled onto that blade, and you've got a little steel shaving in there, a little bit of steel dust, and all you did was just clean the blade and wipe it down, and next thing you know, you've got a deep scratch in that highly refined finish, and you spend the entire rest of the day kicking yourself in the ass going, I knew I shouldn't have touched it again. I knew I shouldn't have touched it again. So it takes even more balls to go back around and go, hey, I'm going to go ahead and shave off the perimeter of the titanium here and hope I don't get any of that on the blade and scratch it up. I hope when I go back with my drill press and I go back into these holes and I clean up the openings here, I hope I don't slip and screw up and scratch up the finish that I just applied to it. There's a lot of things that can go wrong at that, after those final stages, when you decide, hey, I'm going to add a little extra embellishment to this already done beautiful knife. Oh, man, the mistakes that can be made, and how foolish you feel after you've done them. I've been there myself, and it absolutely sucks, because all you can think of is, the fucking knife was done. It was done. If I hadn't had that stupid idea in my head, I would have wrapped this up already and sent it off to the customer, and everything would have been great. But nope, now I just cost myself 2 more days of hand sanding or polishing or whatever it is that you screwed up to redo what I just screwed up. It's one of the worst feelings that you could ever have. So major kudos to TJ for not only creating a beautiful knife, and the grinding on the blade is just amazing, but to stop yourself and go, hey, I've got a couple of extra little embellishments that I think I want to do. Screw it, I'm going to go ahead and do it and just elevate the knife a little bit more, make it that bit more special. So kudos to you, my friend, for coming out with what I think is a gorgeous knife. It's a knife that I don't think is for everybody. That blade is going to be quite polarizing. I'm interested to see people fighting in the comments down below, where some people love it, some people hate it. And yeah, it's going to be a love it or hate it kind of thing. But remember, this is not the standard blade shape that the Cobra comes in. Sheep's foot is the standard blade shape that you would get on the Cobra. And I will try to remember after I upload this to put a little card at the end to show the review I did of the original Cobra, so that you can click on that and see what that standard blade shape looks like, and see that it's not quite as polarizing as this one is, apparently. All right, I'm out of here for now, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you on the next video.